elevated, fortunate souls. Thank you for the beautiful way you just welcomed everybody in Hari. That was so sweet, just personal. You know, it's just Krishna consciousness. Bhakti is personal. Krishna is a person. Krishna, he's there with us at every moment, and he's just waiting for us to talk to him and depend on him in every way. And, you know, he's recognizing every one of us, just like you did in Hari. So I just want to, thank you for allowing my meager self to be in the association of great exalted people, devotees, sincere practitioners, and just asking that you pray that I may have be able to impart something that's meaningful that we can take in our lives and somehow deepen our dedication to Srila Prabhupada's mission, to Lord Chaitanya's mission, and the ultimate issue, develop real love for God, and be able to see Krishna everywhere. So that's what we want. So please take a moment and just extend me your wishes. So, because myself, I'm a nobody. I'm just every day trying to become a devotee. So there you go. So I'm just asking your mercy. On that note, we will begin with Srimad Bhagavatam class, Canto 10, verse 23, chapter 23, verses 10 to 12, I believe. So,
yes.
Got it. Let me just do this thing on the screen here. Okay. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll read the Sanskrit. We don't do it responsively, correct? We just read the Sanskrit and then I'll read the translation.
We're doing it irresponsibly.
Oh, right. Responsively. Yes. Now that's my job to do it irresponsibly. You're the responsible. You're the adult in the room. Okay, here we go. Buckle up. Desha kala pritagdavyam mantra Tantra Vigyo Gyana Gyaya Devata Yagyamanascha Kratur Dharmascha Yan Manya Tam Brahma Paramam Shakshad Bhagavantam Adhokshajam Manushya Dristya Dushpragya Marta Mano Namenire. I'll read the next verse as well, and then I'll read the English. That was verse 10 and 11. So verse 12 is Nateyad Omhi Prochur Naneticha Parantapa Gopa Niraja Pratyetya Tatochu Krishna Ramayo. Translation, verses 10 and 11. Although the ingredients of sacrificial performance, the place, time, particular paraphernalia, mantras, rituals, priests, fires, demigods, performer, offering, and as yet unseen beneficial results, very interesting, are all simply aspects of his opulences. The Brahmins saw Lord Krishna as an ordinary human because of their perverted intelligence. They failed to recognize that he is the supreme absolute truth, the directly manifest personality of Godhead, whom the material senses cannot ordinarily perceive. Thus, bewildered by their false identification with the mortal body, they did not show him proper respect. And we know how that went. Next verse. When the Brahmins failed to reply, even with a simple yes or no, just see, they're like, hey, you don't exist. We're Brahmins. We're doing the yajnas here. So they just, sometimes we're in a situation and people just like, we don't exist to them. So that's how the cowherd boys felt. So when the Brahmins failed to reply, even with a simple yes or no, O chastiser of the enemy, Parikshit, the cowherd boys returned disappointed to Krishna and Balaram and reported this to them. Yeah, just like we're in a situation and somebody just, we're nobody. We don't exist to them. How do we feel? We feel neglected. We feel disappointed. This is how the cowherd boys were feeling. So the Brahmins, they missed the boat, unfortunately. So let's read the purport here. So Prabhupada speaks, there's only a purport for verses 10 and 11. And Prabhupada says, the ritualistic Brahmins could not understand why the sacrificial food should be offered to Lord Krishna, whom they considered an ordinary human being. Just as a person with rose-colored glasses, just as a person with rose-colored glasses sees the entire world as rose-colored, a conditioned soul with mundane vision sees even God himself as mundane and thus loses the opportunity to go back to home, back to Godhead. Wow. Such a great opportunity lost. So this was the great tragedy of the Brahmins missing the opportunity of Krishna's loving representatives, the cowherd boys, just appealing to them. Hey, Krishna wants some food. Can you give us something to eat? And they were, yeah, we don't see you. We're engaged in our very important duties. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanan Gyanaslakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Gena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karati Vacham Pongam Langayate Karim Yat Kripa Tamahang Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavari Pashyata Deshatanine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. All respects to all the great assembled devotees. So before beginning any endeavor that we may make, it's crucial or essential to know what we expect as an end result from that endeavor. We need to know what we're shooting for. If we take a road trip with no fixed destination, then we'll go wherever the many, many roads of our whims take us. And God only knows where we'll end up. And many of us have been in some pretty dark places. But if we have a fixed destination and we set that in our GPS, our God guidance system, then in due course, if we follow the path that's chalked out in the GPS, then we'll arrive at our destination. So the greatest existential problem in the journey of this lifetime for people is that most of us, especially before coming here, most people have no clue, have no idea what the ultimate goal of life is. That which will bring their highest benefit, their highest satisfaction. What is that goal? I think everybody here understands that. As Srila Prabhupada states, the end of this purport, the goal is, Prabhupada says here, conditioned soul with mundane vision sees even God himself as mundane and loses the opportunity to go back to home, back to Godhead, to achieve immortality, eternity, full knowledge, unending happiness. I mean, just contemplate that, immortality. unending happiness, full cognizance of everything. Wow. That's what everybody's looking for. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to get old. Nobody wants grief. Nobody wants disturbance. This is the goal of life, to achieve that, to return back to the spiritual kingdom where there is Vaikuntha, there is the no anxiety, no disturbance. The only disturbance is how can we increase our love for that supreme personality of Godhead? How can we fall in love, fall deeper in love with that all attractive, beautiful cowherd boy, Krishna, who plays his celebrated flute while standing in a threefold bending form adorned with garlands of fragrant forest flowers. He doesn't have to go to the florist. And he's got these beautiful peacock feathers in his head. He's so attractive. How splendid, how incredibly wonderful. We can see when we're in the temple, Shri Shri Radha Murli there, they're so beautiful. So that is what awaits the soul who has devotion in their heart. But for most people, they get on this journey, they don't have a clear understanding of life's ultimate goal. And the road leads them to multifarious different destinations, and none of them bring ultimate satisfaction. A relationship, we want to mate, we want a husband, a wife, a partner. We're looking for a job, a career, start a new business, start our own company. We want to make lots of money. We want a new car. We want children, a creative endeavor. You know, the sky's the limit. We all have these desires. However, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes that there are endless varieties of material desires, just like there are 8,400,000 different species of life to accommodate all these desires. Why are there so many species of life? Because Krishna goes, okay, you want to enjoy, or you want to be like, you know, want to eat meat? Great, become a tiger, become a bear. You want to be envious? Be a snake. That's fine. You know, go for it. So there's these endless material desires, and they take us in unlimited paths, and all of which you could say are some form of destruction because they do not last. And without being dovetailed in Krishna's service, they lead us back to this path of repeated birth and death, the cycle of samsara. Samsara means the never-ending revolving wheel of birth and death, this cycle of suffering in this temporal world, which is not our real home. Our real home is with Krishna, the cowherd boys, the gopis, where every word is a song, every step is a dance. That's what we want. That's where we're meant to be. Krishna describes the mentality of those who are bound by these fruitive material desires, life after life, and endlessly rotate in the cycle. And the Brahmins, they exhibited that mentality. The main aspect of that mentality is a deep desire to what? To dominate, to dominate. We lord it over the energies of Krishna, of the Supreme Lord, in an attempt to enjoy for ourselves or for our extended self of family. We want to take care of our family, our country, our race. We identify with all these external things. But the main ingredient, the main component is this desire to dominate. The classic examples of this are the infamous rulers who lusted for world conquest. You have the Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Hitler, the British Crown. You have in our tradition the big demons, Hiranyakasipu, Ravana, Kamsa, King Venu. And then in modern times, there are, if we observe, we have a little discernment, we can see there are these globalist organizations that, although sometimes disguised as working for the greater good, they embody this mentality of lordship, to dominate and become gods themselves through sophisticated technocratic supremacy via artificial intelligence. It's the new thing. The new gods of the human, transhuman, the new gods of the transhuman era. It's a whole next level becoming God. So Krishna describes this dangerous mentality in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I'll read that in a minute. He describes the filter, just like Prabhupada talks about that the Brahmins had this filter which covered their vision. So Krishna describes the filter, which is, the filter is determined by the mentality that the materialist develops. This filter which drives these ill-motivated individuals who are not only blinded that they cannot see how God is working, but they try to compete with God, to overtake God, to deny God, to abort God and abort his supremacy. That mentality becomes their filter. They see themselves as in direct competition with the supreme controller, Krishna, because they themselves wish to be the supreme controller. And we all embody this to some degree, if we are honest with ourselves. The entire endeavor of this elite class, which we see now, and it's always been there, but in the modern times, it's this elite class of technocrats, is now very, very brazen that they just come right out and say it. Like, for example, some of you may have heard the words of this best-selling, New York Times best-selling author, historian, and he's called now the prophet to the World Economic Forum. Many so-called great people take his words very seriously. His name is Yuval Noah Harari. He's a Israeli historian who became very prominent through a couple of his books that have become bestsellers. So he states, these are his words: "We, the elite class, will become gods." Comes right out and says it. And then he goes on to say that not the God in the clouds. And he says, that's just fake news. God is dead. It just takes a while to get rid of his body. Those are his exact words. He says, but we will become the gods of our cloud of computing data. And that will make us superhuman, greater than God. So many people take this man very seriously, and there are many like him. So again, he's the advisor to the World Economic Forum, to Klaus Schwab, people like Barack Obama, Bill Gates. They see him as a kind of the greatest prophet in the modern world. To him and those like him, God is just a human construct. But the real gods will be the technological elite, who, in merging with this AI conception, artificial intelligence, which is very powerful, no doubt it's very powerful, but they feel that in merging with this artificial intelligence, they will become transhuman and deathless. They'll merge their intelligence with the Internet of Things, the IoT, and they'll upload their consciousness and never die. So Krishna describes this mentality. It's very real. And the people at the top of the international power structure, those who own the central banks and massive hedge funds and their minions, they embody this mentality. Make no mistake about it. And Krishna describes this very masterfully in Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter. So I'm going to read the verses 13 to 15 so we can understand the demonic mentality. It's not like this is kind of something that just happened back when Hiranyakashipu was there. We can see from all these great leaders, the Genghis Khans, Alexander the Greats, the Napoleons, the Hitlers, they all embody this. And it's not that it's not happening now. It's very much happening now. And technology has become so advanced that they could actually control the entire world if we're not careful. So Krishna says the demonic person thinks So much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my means, more wealth, more power. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. Just like this, Yuval Harari was speaking. I am the Lord of everything. We are the new gods. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives and other technocrats. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice, and I shall live forever. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Krishna nails it. He's God, he should know. So what is the result of this mentality? We can see from the aftermath of the wreckage of these so-called lustful rulers of the world that they created massive suffering for human society. They wreak havoc in the world. As Krishna says in the same chapter, he says, they are engaged in unbeneficial, horrible works that are meant to destroy the world. And we see now, probably more closer than any time in history, except perhaps the Bay of Pigs in the early 60s, we see the threat of World War III. It's very real. It's no joke. We also see now that in the name of climate change, they're calling for an end to all cows. They're calling recently in the last week or so, calling for an end to rice production, calling an end to even rainforests because of CO2 emissions. So if we really look at it from the perspective of the Bhagavatam, this is a blatant assault on humanity and theism and the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's really insanity. It's an artificial, non-scientific vision that is not in alignment with the divine science that is given in the Sri Upanishad and the Bhagavatam, where it is clearly described that everything that emanates from the complete whole is perfectly equipped as a complete whole. Therefore, the earth and all its byproducts are sacred. It's only due to our mismanagement and failure to perform the prescribed yajna for the age that there is scarcity and disruption in the world. But they're ignorant of this because they do not have Brahminical guidance. They do not have the guidance of the pure devotee. With their transhuman vision, they will, however, never attain their goal of immortality. Because just like Hiranyakasipu tried to cheat Brahma, Hiranyakasipu thought he was one very smart dude. Brahma said, hey, I can't give you immortality. We know that story. But Hiranyakasipu said, okay, I'm going to get around it. Yeah, I'm going to upload my consciousness to the cloud. I'm going to get around it. You don't kill me in the day and the night. You don't kill me by any weapon, by any man, by any animal. But Lord Nrsingadev tricked him. He didn't consider his nails or at dusk, in between day and night. So just as Hiranyakasipu was tricked and defeated by Lord Nrsingadev, these modern day Asuras will also be defeated, although they will wreak havoc, and they are. Because we understand from Bhagavad Gita that there are two different types of energies at play. Like they want to become eternal, but they are identifying as the mind and the body. But we understand from Bhagavad Gita, no, there are two different energies at play. There's the inferior energy of matter, which is by nature mutable. It's temporary, it's ever changing. It's going to go through 6 changes and ultimately die. And then we have the superior energy of the spirit, Jiva Shakti, of consciousness, which is a symptom of our anti-material spark of spirit soul, which is permanent, indestructible, eternal. But because these demonic beings who have this, even though they may appear to be in the guise of philanthropic people, we should not be fooled. because they have no heart of devotion and they are interested simply in using their intelligence to devise craftier ways. They're very craftier ways to manipulate the material energy and dominate the resources of the world and dominate human populations. They will never be able to recognize the beauty, supremacy, and infinite loving capacity that is within the heart of a devoted soul, a soul devoted to God. Thus, all their attempts at liberation will always, always, always be defeated. Though they're going to try, and their technology is going to keep increasing, but they will never defeat death. They will never become all powerful, and they will be defeated. So in a sense, the Brahmins in this wonderful story, it's not just a story, it's a fact, it's a pastime. The Brahmins had this type of mentality, although not as extreme. They were not demonic, but they embodied the seed of this desire to, this filter, as Prabhupada describes, that rose-colored glass. They could not see that God was standing in front of them. They could not recognize Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the same way, we, myself, I think all of us, we often cannot recognize how Krishna comes to us and speaks to us, directs our ways, chastises us, and ultimately loves us in every action that comes our way. You may have heard it said that everything happens not to us. Everything in the universe happens not to us, but for us. So what does that mean? Because especially for the devotee, this is true. But you could say for everyone, but especially for the devotee, because Krishna personally takes charge of the devotee's life who surrenders unto him. Jayatva amang prapadyante. All of them, Krishna says, Sarva dharman pratyajya. If you surrender unto me, I will protect you. I will guide you. So everything that's happening to us, even though it may seem like, oh my God, how is this possibly happening? This suffering, this reversal in life, this loss of whatever, disease, money, the way a person is dealing with me, the way the world is going. How is this? No, Krishna is there. He's there to teach us. He's doing everything for us. We just have to be able to see. The Brahmins, they couldn't see Krishna was coming to them in the form of these Krishna's friends, his coward boys. Hey, Krishna wants some food. He's got a headache. Can you help out? Hey, no, we have much more important things to do. So how many of us have had that experience where we look back at our lives and something maybe terrible happened to us, which seemingly was a tremendously challenging situation. But now when we look, and we were freaked out, we were disturbed, we were depressed, we were anxious, but we look back in it and we marvel at the lessons that we learned from it, how Krishna was helping us, teaching us, guiding us. Just like in the Mahabharata, Duryodhana, he made a fatal decision. He could not understand that Krishna was standing right before him, the all-powerful personality of Godhead. And instead, he chose what? He chose Krishna's army based on a material calculation of the strength of his army. But at the end, what happened? He was totally defeated. He lost everything. He lost his life because he made the wrong choice based on this filter that covered his vision, instead of seeing the actual unadulterated truth that God himself was standing before him. Just like God was coming to the Brahmins in the form of the coward boys, they couldn't see it. In the same way, are the decisions that we make based on our filters And what are those filters? They're coming from our previous conditioning, the impressions we have from previous lifetimes, from activities we perform for our own sense satisfaction. Are the decisions we make based on the filters for our own desire to enjoy the world? Or are they based on seeing how we can best serve Radha and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, or their ambassadors, the spiritual master? This is a very healthy contemplation or meditation or litmus test to make for ourselves in any given situation. Krishna is always right here with us. We may not always perceive his presence. Is he asking me to do something for him, for his service? In any given situation, we can ask that. How am I going to respond? Because for devotees, Krishna, we know, is taking personal, special care. He's always, in some form or fashion, presenting himself to us. We just have to be able to see that. So we can ask ourselves, how is Krishna appearing to me in this situation? Just like right now, I'm sure everybody has a situation they're dealing with in their life. I'm certain of it because that's just the way the world is. So what is Krishna asking of me in this situation that I'm dealing with? What's he requesting me to sacrifice for his purpose? Just like, so I'm giving this class today. I was asked to by Ananda Bihari, would you like to give class? I said, sure, because I used to give class regularly. But when it came time for me to prepare, I had a lot going on, just like we all have a lot going on in life. So I resisted. I was like, oh, geez, I can't believe I got all this going on. I don't think I have time to prepare. So I was resisting, but really when I just contemplated it and became a little meditative about it, I felt the Lord within my heart prompting me, no, you have to do this. It's not for you, it's for me. I want you to do this for Srila Prabhupada, for the sake of representing this transcendental knowledge. You're not doing it for you. Of course, ultimately it is, because when we speak, we gain some realization. And so, I surrendered and I prepared, etc. And what happens when we do that, when we do something that's pleasing to Guru and Krishna? We feel that reciprocation from within. Everybody here has that experience, I'm sure. When we sacrifice to chant our rounds, when we sacrifice to read Srila Prabhupada's books, when we sacrifice to serve a god brother, god sister who's having some difficulty, when we sacrifice to share Krishna consciousness with others, we feel that reciprocation within us. It's tangible. It's a genuine happiness. That's bhakti. The yoga of love, service, surrender. It's deep, it's profound. And once we taste it, what? We never want to be without it. So that cannot be tasted, that bhakti, by the ritualistic Brahmanas of the world, by the scientists, the philosophers, the speculators, the progressive intellectuals. No. Only the humble devotee has access to this happiness, which what? Comes from within. Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, that one whose happiness is within, who's active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. Bhagavad Gita 5:24. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. And then Krishna describes in the 6th chapter, samadhi. Again, what is the state that the devotee attains? Excuse me, someone's calling me. Nope, sorry. The stage of perfection, this is the verse on samadhi. So the Buddhists have the conception of samadhi, but the samadhi that Krishna describes is so much deeper because it's personal. So Krishna says the stage of perfection, this stage of perfection is called trance or samadhi, where one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities, from the external world of sense enjoyment. By practice of yoga, This is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind, to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys oneself through the transcendental senses within. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there's no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. And we're all going through difficulties. This indeed is the actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So there you have it. As Prabhupada says in the end of the purport again, just as a person with rose-colored glasses sees the entire world as rose-colored, a conditioned soul with mundane vision sees even God himself as mundane, and thus loses the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. So this is the essence. Remove these filters. See how Krishna is coming to us in so many ways, like the cowherd boys. So just to quickly summarize what it's important that we all learn, I'm speaking to myself in particular, to have the discernment and wisdom to see beyond the propaganda of the Asuric controllers of the world who seek to enslave us in the name of many things, including the greater good. They seek to distract us, to take away our freedoms, ultimately the freedom to express our godly yearning, because in the ultimate issue, they despise God. So our mission is to remove the filters that obscure our vision of seeing Krishna in everything, seeing how Krishna is working in every aspect of our life. And how do we do this? By cleansing the mirror of our mind. Our mind is a mirror that reflects our soul, but our soul is covered. So we do this through the process of sadhana bhakti, just like we're hearing the Bhagavatam today. So we can see the pure effulgence of our beautiful soul and see it reflected in our unfiltered heart. And then to share that wisdom with others, because it's a great gift and everybody is suffering because they don't have access to it. And we do this by sharing, and as the foundation, we have the foundation of Srila Prabhupada's books. What are we doing today? We're hearing from Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee. He's directly in contact with Krishna. And in this way, what? We make our lives successful. We know the destination. And in the end, what's the result? We return back home, back to Godhead. Simple. So that's it. That's the deal. And I'm just going to end with one little Prabhupada pastime, and then I'd like to open up the floor. So regarding the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books, because that's our bedrock, our foundation. So Prabhupada was asking some devotees some questions, and they couldn't quite answer. And Prabhupada became very angry. And he said, so you are not reading my books? I've spent so much time reading these books. I read my books. Do you know why I read my books? So he asked their devotees, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, because it's, it's written by Vyasadeva, it's transcendental knowledge, and Prabhupada didn't accept that. Somebody said because you want to set an example for us to read the books, Prabhupada didn't accept that. Prabhupada said, no, the reason I read my books, because these are not my books. Krishna personally, God personally stands in front of me and dictates to me these books. That's why I read these books. So these books are directly revealed knowledge from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's inconceivable, unfathomable, but it is a fact. So we experience that if we take shelter of these books, make that part of our practice, and then somehow share that with others. So that being said, I would like to hear from anyone, any comments, questions, any criticisms. Please, anyone just jump in and we'll take it from there.
Very nice class, Badarayan Prabhu. Very eye-opening and very scary, but at the same time, very hope-giving. Thank you. Thank you. So Temple Room, do you have questions, reflections? Unmute yourself if you do.
Wow, there's
Hare Krishna.
Sundarananda, my old buddy Sundarananda. So yeah, anyway, Nanda Bihari, if you can call on people, because
Yeah, I'm calling on the Temple Room.
okay,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
calling.
Krishna.
Hey, Adi.
Wonderful class, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Repeating perfectly. We've been going through this pastime, and there are different components. There are the cowherd boys that are approaching the Brahmins. There are the Brahmins, and then there's Krishna. And you very succinctly, elaborately described, and we've been talking a lot about this lately, how the Brahmins were misdirected, even though they were religiously oriented people. They forgot why and who they're doing it for. But one really wonderful part of your class was you were glorifying Krishna. In the Bhagavatam, we're glorifying the Lord. And Krishna is so kind that it doesn't stop there. As deeply conditioned and misdirected as people are, Krishna is always reaching out to them, sometimes with the ultimate smashing activity. But more often than that, just like in this case, Krishna arranged that somebody went and asked them for a donation. And their first take on it was, oh, we're doing something else. We're good. We don't need to do this. But then if we follow the pastime all the way through, Krishna is so wonderful that he worked through the Brahmins' wives, and the donation was given. So that Krishna actually, Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda approached even Jagai and Madai, the most outrageously fallen, sinful rapists, murderers, drunkards, thieves, and approached them and asked them to give their attention to the holy name. So we have that activity of Krishna, who never forgets us, is always reaching out, even like Jesus said, I'm here for the sick people. They criticized him for going to the fallen, to the tax collectors, to the Bauchis, and he said, the doctor goes to where the sick people are. So Krishna is so kind that no matter how deep I've fallen into darkness and how long I've been there, that he's always reaching out through his devotees to encourage me to come back and to open my heart and to ultimately to uplift us all. So even these misdirected Brahmins were given the benefit of an opportunity to give a donation. It's cool, eh? How wonderful is Krishna.
Everything is perfect with Krishna. Thank you, Adi.
Oh, glory to Prabhupada.
Any questions?
Yeah, Bhima followed by Krishna Daya, Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful class. It was amazing to listen to all of that.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, okay.
Haribo?
Yeah, Bhima, go ahead.
Badarayan, Prabhu, thank you very much for addressing an issue that is rarely talked about. The tendency is devotees do not watch the news, which they, of course, wouldn't get the truth anyways because of massive censorship. We start to wake up, even as devotees, we wake up to the fact that around us, the world, as Prabhupada said, is being run by Asuras. It's being run by Rakshasas. These are no less dangerous and no less cruel than the Asuras and the Rakshasas of the past. I won't go into it. But my question to you, Prabhu, and you don't know how grateful I am that you address this issue, because only a few people are willing to go down that rabbit hole, because it's extremely disturbing when you find out not only, of course, this is Maya, this is an illusion, but also there's people out to get you. And I don't mean in a paranoia way, but that we have to sort of bolster ourselves. Now, we bolster ourselves by the holy name, and that's our heart, and that's our soul, and we have to depend fully upon Krishna, like Prahlad did when he himself was under attack by Hiranyakashipu. There's no end to the cruelty of Hiranyakashipu. There's no end to the cruelty of these Asuras. They're proving right now that they will stop at nothing to bring about the end of the world or bring about the destruction of life, because they, like you said, they despise Krishna. Now, my question is do we act like Prahlad, or do we act like Arjun and Bhima? Do we actually think about taking up arms, protecting ourselves, strategizing, preparing? These things are all, people can make fun of them all that. Hare Krishna. We have a after class. We have an after class. I would really love to hear the answer.
Okay. Your name is Prabhu Jeff Bhima?
Bhima, yeah.
Bhima. Hey, thank you so much for that question. And I really hear the how that's like.
Badarayan Prabhu, I apologize. Let's take darshan quickly and then and sincerely, and then we'll have a little afterglow.
Can we continue this discussion? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yes, we continue
after
after darshan. We continue for however long it takes.
Great, because I'd really like to address this.
Thank you.
Turn your cameras on, dear devotees.
Okay, let's see.
The world is run by Krishna, sometimes by artificial intelligence.
Hey, Nandi Bihari, can you see how do I access the temple room here? Interface.
Hold on. I'm going to remove your spotlight.
Okay.
And spotlight the temple room.
Oh, great. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Fantastic. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Jai Shri Radha Muradhar Ki Jai. All right, now we know who's really in control.
Okay. Welcome to the Afterglow, everybody. Bhima Prabhu, what was your question in one sentence? I heard something, take up arms.
I got it. Let me see if I can reflect back to your question, Bhima, okay? So your question is, first of all, you were appreciating that I had brought up the not often discussed fact of who's running the world and what their agenda is, just as the Asuras were running the world back in the day. And how do we respond to this? Because it's a nefarious, destructive agenda. Just as King Venu wanted to kill all the Brahmins. Just as Hiranyakasipu wanted to do the same. Just as David Gorilla wanted to do the same. So we have precedents in our tradition dating back millions of years. Why should we think that the demons of the modern age are also, are they more benign? No, they're not. That would be naive and foolish. So, I mean, let's hear what Prabhupada says about it. Prabhupada says in the Rajavidya, let's just see what did Prabhupada say. At the present, this world is being managed by Rakshasas. The Rakshasas are man-eaters who eat their own sons.
Yes.
Present, especially on this planet Earth, the influence of Lord Brahma has decreased considerably, and the representatives of Hiranyakashipu, the Rakshasas and demons, have taken charge. Prabhupada's talking about now. Therefore, there is no protection of rabbinical culture in cows, just like well, let's kill all the cows now. Too much, they're farting too much. It's going to destroy the planet, right? Therefore, there is no protection of rabbinical culture in cows, which are the basic prerequisites of all kinds of good fortune. This age is very dangerous because society is being managed by demons and Rakshasas. And if one is a little tuned in and does one's research in terms of how the world is working, we can see that this is profoundly prominent now, but in the guise of something else, because their methods are very sophisticated. They have, you could say, psychological operations, otherwise known as psyops. Prabhupada discusses this. Let's just do another quote from Srila Prabhupada here. What about these psychological operations? So Prabhupada states, let's see here. Prabhupada, this is from Bhubaneswar, January 21st, 1977. Prabhupada said, now they are trying to destroy us, and we are trying to destroy them. The conflict is already there, and this is now psychological fight. And then there will be actual fight, and we must take part in that fight. That's from Srila Prabhupada. Room conversation, Bhubaneswar, 1977. So Bhima's question is, how do we take part in that fight? Do we take up arms? Here's my take on it. The demons of today have vastly superior weapons. You can take up a gun or a rifle or whatnot, but they have directed energy weapons where they can, basically fry your brain. Have you seen these videos of people that were injected with the COVID vaccine, where all of a sudden they're turning around, they're looking around, they're hearing something, all of a sudden they lose control of their body and they just flail on the ground and die? Have you seen those videos? A lot of those.
Yep.
So, we've also seen if you look at the videos from the Paradise, California fires and other places, these powerful beams of light coming from the sky, directed energy weapons. They have tornado, just like the demons in the past, they had tornado weapons, they had hurricane weapons. The demons of the modern day, through DARPA, Defense Advanced Research facilities and HARP weapons, they have energy weapons. So they have super powerful weapons. Our business is not to take up weapons. If somebody comes to invade our house, should we defend ourselves? Of course. But we do not defeat the demons of the modern age through taking up arms. That may come to be if people are in a Kshatriya join the military in some form or fashion. But the weapon is knowledge. Armed with knowledge, O Arjuna, stand and fight. So the weapon in this age is, first of all, to be just like in the Sri Upanishad, it's described that the transcendentalist should simultaneously cultivate knowledge of the spiritual dimension and knowledge of nescience side by side. Why? If we don't understand how nescience is working, as Prabhupada said, there's a famous lecture where Prabhupada, the name of the lecture is Calculating the Darker Side. Prabhupada said a devotee must be intelligent and calculate the darker side. He said, just like in business, if the businessman is thinking, oh, how much profit I will make, I'm just counting my money, but never thinks how someone can cheat me, then that person will be cheated. In the same way, Prabhupada said we should be intelligent enough to calculate how Maya is working. And that's what this verse of Sri Upanishad describes. How are the present day Rakshasas, demons, influencing the minds and bodies and environment of the world, and they're doing that very expertly. And if we're not discerning and develop a kind of an attunement to how that is working, we will become victimized by that, even as devotees. And we see that, right, Bhima? So that's a whole nother subject matter, which I don't necessarily wish to discuss at this present time. But our real weapon is our sadhana, our spiritual fortitude, and basically speaking the truth. Speaking the truth, revealing, because when the greatest fear of those that control the world is that they will be exposed. In the past, the demons like Hiranyakasipu, they were just uber powerful. They were just like, everybody knew how extremely super powerful they were. They didn't try to hide themselves. But today we have demons whose only prowess is through, their psychological
Deception.
Deception, exactly. Their power is in deception. Thank you, Prabhu. So how do we overcome the weapon of deception? By revealing the truth of how they're actually working. So that is my take. Now, Prabhupada, Balavanta and Rupanuga approached Srila Prabhupada I'll read you something that's very interesting. So they approached, see if I can find this. They approached Srila Prabhupada back in the day. This is from Rupanuga. Years ago in college student days, having read the popular book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy, which in essence indicated that the world was being controlled and manipulated by a few extremely wealthy and powerful families. And having later read the above quote about the Rakshasas in Srila Prabhupada's books, Balavanta and Rupanuga approached Srila Prabhupada in his quarters in Mayapur Dham. And some of the names mentioned, and they said, Prabhupada, some of the names mentioned in this book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy, are still very much prominent in the world, people like Henry Kissinger, etc. And Prabhupada was asked if these were the Rakshasas Prabhupada was referring to. Prabhupada looked at it and said, yes. Yes. So Prabhupada said, and you should preach to them. And they asked, how should we, Prabhupada said, you should preach to them. He said, but then Prabhupada said, caution. He said, but they are too powerful. But they are too powerful. So if you want, you can try to give them your. He said, but ultimately, then Prabhupada said this. This is directly from Rupanuga, who was with Prabhupada in Mayapur at this time. Prabhupada said to them, he said, but what they don't know is that the power is in the people. Prabhupada said that. The power is in the people. So what does that mean? We outnumber them vastly. There's only about maybe 6,000 people that run the world at most. How many are there of us? Billions, 7 billion people. Of course, they stated in many of their documents, their white papers, it's hiding in plain sight that they want to reduce the world's population to 500 million so they can control the world and have all the resources for themselves in some kind of Hunger Games dystopian kind of vision of reality, which is what all the great demons in the world wanted. So why should it be different now? But Prabhupada said the power is in the people. So, and the power ultimately is in the Sankirtan movement. the warriors of Lord Chaitanya. So that's where the real power is. So again, much more can be said about this, but I want to see if there's any other questions. Does that answer your question, Bhima?
Yes, it does, Prabhu. Thank you very much. I'm going to obviously save this lecture. It is very disturbing, as you said. Oh, just very quickly, when does one call it quits as far as like learning anything new about this? When do you, because it's nauseating. It's nauseating. And you just like, when do you just look away and just chant your rounds and try to spread Krishna consciousness and just accept the fact that this is a war and we're in it? And when do you stop gathering knowledge of the enemy? When does that end? Because the knowledge, it has the taste of Maya. You know what I mean? It's very much as Adi told me once, you become Maya conscious instead of Krishna conscious. Not that you want Maya, that you want to enjoy, but you become sort of absorbed in the esoteric agenda of these people, and it's a hole that never ends. So when do you like just turn away and say, I know enough, I'm going to now engage in the good battle, the good fight? But you know, you want to tell other devotees, you want to say, do not comply, do not comply. What they're telling you is a lie. And they're like, oh, well, prove it to me. And you know, you have to gather that knowledge, and you want to protect the devotees, you want to protect the devotee children, you know, from people making mistakes based on the fact that they trust these Rakshasas. So when do you turn away and just engage in the fight without disseminating knowledge?
That is a fabulous question. And a lot of devotees are contemplating this question at the present time. And I wrote my entire Vyasa Puja offering for this year on that question, and I'll send it to you, okay? So if you could send me your contact info, and I'll send you, because I kind of address this in a very comprehensive way in my Vyasa Puja offering. So my take on that is that two things. First of all, every devotee has a different level of realization and inspiration and inclination. Some devotees, this is just too much for them. For probably a lot of devotees, this kind of gathering this type of information about how the kind of humanity is under assault, etc. And ultimately, you know, all the things that we just discussed. And I could speak on this for quite some time because I also researched this. And it can be very, it's like, I know that you don't want to spend your time researching this, nor do I. We just want to chant and be happy. But let's look at it this way. If your home is under assault by a gang of armed assailants, do you just go and say, okay, I'm just going to chant? You know, you want to understand the enemy's position. You want to, you know, if you're in a war, and war is very complex, you can't just go, you know, this war is just, it's, I mean, a person who's realized will be like, I can't just turn away from this because the enemy's coming in from all sides. I really have to know how the enemy is working so I'm not overtaken by the enemy. At the same time, for a devotee, we can do this on parallel paths, because for me, it's actually inspiring to understand these things, because it's inspiring because I see everything in relation to the coming golden age of Lord Chaitanya's movement, because we understand from Shastra and from the predictions made that we are 5,000 years into the golden age of the Sankirtan movement, that in this particular time in Kali Yuga, since Krishna appeared on the planet and his departure, there will be 10,000 years of the golden age of Kali Yuga. And it really came about since the advent of Lord Chaitanya. So we're just at the beginning stages. For Lord Chaitanya's mission to be fully manifest, the demons, they cannot be in control. So if we want to be empowered as Krishna's warriors, then we have to be careful. We have to be guarded at the gates of the Krishna consciousness mission to not allow the enemy into our gates, because they will, the one aspect of enemy tactics, and especially of Maya, is to insidiously infiltrate through different conceptions. And again, I could speak more about that, but I'll just kind of leave it at that. So for me, it's really a level of, can I maintain my Krishna consciousness and maintain hearing, chanting, my sadhana, at the same time understand what's going on in the world. If my sadhana and Krishna consciousness are decreased, by the way, wow, what beautiful horses, amazing. If my sadhana is decreased, then I have to adjust something. But if I can maintain my sadhana and still research this, then I feel it's essential. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Badarayan Prabhu and Bhima Prabhu, for the wonderful discussion. Adipusha Prabhu, would you like to say something? By the way, dear devotees, we're going over time. We understand. If you need to tune out, no problem. We'll stick around for another few minutes and then. Oh, Wadi was waving goodbye. All right, all right.
No. I'm
No?
talking. I want to speak if possible.
Okay, but there's no video.
Sorry.
Are you hiding from the AI?
I don't know how to do it.
Okay,
Don't worry about the video.
okay.
The scripture says the battlefield is the hearts of men. The battlefield is the hearts of men. So in 1974, we already distributed 38 million books in this country. But that was 50 years ago, right? So we're still just doing that. And the knowledge is what defeats the ignorance. So we've planted the seeds, and now is the time for cultivating the seeds. And Rameshwar was asking Prabhupada, you said that the movement will prevail. How will it prevail? Leave everything closed. How will there be armed conflict? Will we outnumber the demons in our voting, and at the ballot box we'll win? How the heck will we prevail? Angel, leave that closed for a minute, okay? Oh well, we're in the middle of a big street. You just opened the door. So noisy. They said, how will it prevail? And Prabhupada said, well, between the devotees going out on Harinam, the book distribution, the people coming to the temples, and the people going out soliciting and interacting with the public, gradually, the people will get an understanding that there's a higher quality of personalities who have wisdom and who are, we're attracted to that, and there'll be like a groundswell. It won't be armed conflict, and it won't be at the ballot box, but people will begin to desire better leadership. They'll be frustrated with these mundane leadership, and gradually they will reach out and raise up people who have faith. And so the battle is in the hearts of men. So we're contacting people. We're watering those seeds of those books that have been distributed by interacting with the public, and Krishna will prevail.
I think Krishna was not on the battlefield of Kurukshetra alone. And if the battlefield is the hearts of men, I think it's gotten to the point, and I'm saying this tongue in cheek, but sometimes that means that you shoot for the heart. That can be with knowledge, of course, but I think also refusing to comply. If 6 billion people say no when they put their mandates down, we have to be courageous enough to say no. We have to be courageous enough to lose our jobs. Both my wife and my son lost their jobs because they would not stand in line for the jab. We have to be courageous, and we win the war by not doing what they tell us to do. And it's a time for us as devotees. Go ahead.
Yeah, like it says, you can't drive away a shadow with a baseball bat. Light a candle. So if you listening to all these rakshas,
You mean burn them down?
Wait, let me just answer. If we listen to all the information about the rakshasas to the point where we become fired up to throw ourselves into the counter attack, the best defense is a good offense. So we just don't want to complain about what they're doing. We want to do something remedial. So therefore, we have to do whatever we can. Krishna will show each of us how to play some role in reaching out to others and giving them access to transcendental knowledge.
Well, if devotees needed protection, as Badarayan said, that if devotees need protection, then you give them the shelter of the fact that, you inform them that perhaps even the GBC, who said, oh, yes, we should be standing in line and listening to the government and these doctors,
Let's not get too political here, please.
Yeah. What? Because it matters. Because I'm not talking political. I'm talking about devotees, and I'm talking about devotee children. And that's all I got to say, is that we have to stand strong. We have to be courageous. And we have to speak truth to power, no matter what that power is. And whether that power is informed by ignorance, or the simple fact that, we're just too busy doing things, too busy, with our jobs, too busy to pay attention to what's happening. Krishna asked Arjuna, Arjuna wanted to get off the battlefield, okay? And Krishna said, no, shoot your arrows, shoot them through the neck, okay? So
we have a quote.
The fact of the matter is,
we have a quote from scripture, there we quote scripture, Kala Doshini Dev Rajan, that there's many problems in the age of Kali, but we have the sword of knowledge, and it says, Kirtana Deva Krishna Syava Mukta Sangha Param, simply by chanting the holy name, all of those Doshinati, all that ocean of mistakes and misdeeds and horrible activities can be counteracted. So we're propagating the chanting of the holy name, and that's our supreme weapon. Prasadam, books, and giving people access to devotional service. I have to jump off here. We're doing a Bhagavatam, but both of you do very brilliant contribution. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, shoot Prasadam through the neck.
Are there, I understand very much where Bhima's coming from, and I understand the emotion that he's feeling, and I understand where Adi's coming from, and I would like to see if there's any other questions or comments.
Cyril or Force? Were you looking over out there?
Let's give her a chance.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me mute Adi and Angel. Hold on. Okay, anybody would like to contribute at this point? Great class, Badarayan Prabhu.
Thank you.
His Holiness Sachinandan Swami has this beautiful quote that I'd like to bring up. He says, there's no way you can think yourself out of the problems that you created, that you put yourself in by thinking, by your own thinking. There's no way, you need spiritual practice for that. You need sadhana. So that goes in line with what you said. That our sword is the sword of sadhana, the sword of gulab jamuns, the sword of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's a very wonderful solution to all the multiple problems that Bhima Prabhu brought up and you brought up so wonderfully from the Shastric perspective. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share something. And it's just an honor to be in the association of intelligent, thoughtful devotees. And thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much for everybody here is so fortunate to be part of this Bhakti Center community. It's such a great service that you all are doing, just coming together like this in the mornings and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And so I'm just happy to be of some little humble service here.
Thank you, Badarayan Prabhu. We look forward to your class next month. You're one of our regulars. Okay, dear devotees, that's it. That was the class for today. Thank you very much for giving us your attention. Don't let them fry your brain. Don't scroll too much up and down on your phone. That's their weapon. Use it in devotional service, like we're doing today by attending Srimad Bhagavatam class. Have a wonderful day and come again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends. This is our weapon. And thank you very much. We love you all. Hadi Bol. Thank you. Hare Krishna.